Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to week number 6, recorded lecture number 18. Well, today we are going to complete employment interviews topic. We have already had two recorded lectures on it, and today we shall be practicing the questions. Rather, we shall be understanding how to answer the typical questions in an interview. Okay, so these employment interview questions have been categorized into different categories or types so that it's easy for you to understand. So, first we begin with the questions that are asked to get acquainted, to get familiar with you, or to have some information about you. Well, number one, a very common question, a typical question in interviews, employment interviews is, tell me about yourself, right? Well, I won't recommend that you should go for telling your name and your degree and maybe your father name, etc., etc., as some of the students uh, make these mistakes, on the basis of the past experience that I have had with the students at NAD while helping them prepare for their job interviews, right? Well, this tell me about yourself means they want to know yourself. Preferably, you should focus on some strengths in it. Those strengths can come from your educational background, right? If you have already some experience, then they can come from your professional background or business related strengths, right? Preferably. And you should prepare yourselves in advance for such strengths that you are likely to be asked in employment interview, so that at that time you do not get confused, right? So your because this is one of the typical questions, so you should think of your strength, note them down with you, and rehearse with each other for the interview. Well, second, what are your greatest strengths? Well, as I have already said, that you can, while introducing yourself, you can focus on some of your two, three, four strengths. And this is another straight way of asking a question, what are your strengths? Even if they do not specify that what are your strengths related job, preferably your first choice should be that you share your strengths related to the job, right? Because they are more interested in hiring an appropriate person for the particular job that they have announced, or uh, even if they have not announced but they are looking for it, right? Well, number three, do you prefer to work by yourself or with others? Why? Well, this is a bit tricky question, right? Some of you may say, well, I prefer working by myself. Well, in certain situations, you have to work alone, and you have to give your individual input. But if somebody says, well, he or she can work only alone, that would be considered as his or her weakness. It means you cannot work with others, right? So, what I suggest, you should be covering both sides. You should cover, the situation where you prefer to work alone, and where you think you will be more productive if you work alone. And you should also talk about those situations where you think teamwork is important, group work is important. There are certain tasks where you require other group members, or you require other team members, especially in case of team. If that is a bigger task and there are many phases of that task, and a team can perform better than an individual. Well, what was your major in college and why did you choose it? Right? Like, for example, in your case, it can be your major is like automotive or telecom or food or you know materials, or like petroleum, or any other area. So then you also have to have a proper justification for it, right? Just saying because my mother wanted me to become a food engineer, that's why I chose it, right? That is not an appropriate answer. It means you do not make your own decisions, or that may be taken as lack of decision making power, right? So because by the time you graduate, you will have known enough about your field of specialization, so you should think of logical reasons, right? Preferably strengths of your fields will guide you. Why did you choose it, or why did you choose the field you are in now? Okay, then question number 5, what are some things you do in your spare times, right? That is about your hobbies, right? And what you do in your spare time actually uh, shows what you like and what you do not like. And your likenesses have direct influence on your personality, the sort of person you are. For example, uh, again, you may have more than one preferences, and you should think of more than one hobbies, or more than one activities that you do in your spare time, right? And preferably you should share the activities that align with the target or purpose of the job. For example, if you know the job description that you will be required to work on site that is bit away or little far from the main city where you live, so you will be coming to see your family only on weekends, so for 5 days you have to stay there, and now you have two spare time activities. One, you like reading, and second, you like meeting people. Now I would suggest in that particular context, because if you mention that I like reading books, that is going to be more in your favor. Because if you mention that, okay, I like to interact more with my relatives, now they would say, well, how are you going to stay for 5 days away from your hometown? So you may have, all of us have more than one hobbies, and we should share our hobbies with the interviewers smartly. Like if you have 10 hobbies, and out of 10, hobby number 5 is most appropriate for that particular situation, keeping the organizational culture in mind, keeping the job description in mind, keeping the nature of the job in mind, so you shall be sharing that one. You will be able to do that only when, once again, you know about the company, you find out about the job description, have the insight of the company, and you have well rehearsed your interviews before uh, the actual interview. Well, second type of question or second category of questions is about your interests. Like question number one, why do you want to work for, like name of the company. For example, why do you want to work for Microsoft? Now, this means you should be knowing strengths and achievements of that particular company that you are applying for. Only then you can, answer such questions where you can tell, I want to work for this company because this has ISO certification, this, and this, right? I want to work for a company that is among top 10 companies of that industry, so on and so forth, right? So, as already said, that you should do your level best to know as much as possible about that company, both from their own website and from other sources, and by joining other social groups that belong to that particular industry or that particular company. Number two, why are you interested in this position? Now, again, job description. If you do not know what the position is and what the position requires you to do, what is the scope of the position, you will not be able to answer this question properly. Why are you interested in this position? Right? So, if you know about that position, if you have that job description, if you know what you will be required to do after joining that post, if you know people who have been working on similar posts, and if you have rehearsed this all in advance, that is going to help you. Number three, what do you know about our company? I have already covered, in question number one, but few key things that you should be knowing about that company are their achievements, their location, maybe their branches, maybe their assets, maybe their future plans, and usually you can find many of the things on their websites, and few more things you can find from other industry related magazines or journals or social groups and other things. Number four, why do you want to work in the dash industry? For example, why do you want to work in petroleum industry? Why do you want to work in oil and gas industry? Why do you want to work in telecommunication industry? Or why do you want to work in automotive industry? So on and so forth. Then it means, in addition to know about that company, you should also know about that industry. For example, if you are interested in working for uh, Kia Pakistan automotive company, auto manufacturing company, you should also know about auto industry in Pakistan, right? And that industry would include all car manufacturers or auto manufacturers in Pakistan. So it's important to know both about that specific specific company, and also about that industry to which that particular company belongs to. Number five, what interests you about our product or services? Now, if you do not have any information about their products and their services, you will not be able to answer this question. It means they want you to know about them. The companies expect the candidates to know about their products, about their services, and sometimes they may even ask you to identify their weaknesses, right? But of course, you should not be overcritical while doing so. Now, next we move towards questions about the future. Number one, where do you expect to be in 5 or 10 years from now? It means you should have thought about your future. It shouldn't be as if you plan for every day and every next morning you have a new planning, right? Now, when you answer for this question, there are some typical, or I would call them cliche answers. I want to be at your place. They are now much outdated, I should say, right? So do not give any such answers that sound that they have been memorized. Many other candidates may also have given similar answers. Well, somebody who gave it for the first time, it may have been impressive, but now memorizing somebody else's very common answer and giving it in an interview is not going to have a positive impression. So it's better to have some realistic future goals, goals about your skills development, goals about your achievements, professional achievements, goals about taking company ahead, right? And they should be a bit realistic goal, not unrealistic. You know, you cannot bring the moon and the star in 5 to 10 years down to the earth. So they should be realistic. Now, number two, if you got this position, what would you do to be sure you fit in it? Right? Now, again, a conditional question. If you got this position, what would you do? Now, once again, you should not make very big claims, and at the same time, you should not say, well, how would I know before I get this position? It means you should have made some decisions that, okay, if I get this position, for example, I'll take some time to analyze the responsibilities of this position. I would know the job description, the tasks that are to be performed, and then I'll sort out, according to each task or project or responsibility, and I'll work on uh, any weak areas if I have that are required for this position. Like this is just one thought I have shared. Number three, this is a large or a small organization. Do you think you would like that environment? Like if that is a large, they would say large organization. If that is a small, they would say small organization. Now you should already have known what is the environment of a large organization or a small organization, and what are the future prospects in a large and small organization, and what are advantages and disadvantages of working in a large organization and in a small organization, so if you have already done your homework, so if you are being interviewed for a large organization, preferably you should be sharing 2 to 3 strengths that any employee can get while working in a large organization. And if you are being interviewed for a small organization and you want to join that in a small organization, maybe you should come up with 1 or 2 advantages of working in a small organization. Number four, do you plan to continue your education? One thing, you can tell the truth, yes or no. Second, if you think that you are a bit flexible and you would see if the company allows, then you can continue. Or maybe many fresh graduates, they think that after their graduation, they should take some experience, and then they should go for their post graduation degree. So you can share either one of the plan, but if you know that the job description is such, for example, it is out of the station job and it won't allow you to come to the university from where you want to do postgraduate studies, and if the university doesn't offer online classes, then maybe you should not mention that you want to do your masters. Then they would say, well, how would you manage these both things? Or maybe you can defer your studies for some time, right? So again, you need to think about it, and your answer, you should have made the decision well before you go for the interview, that what would you be doing about your education. If you get the job, how would you manage it? And if you do not get the job, then it's, of course, it's not their concern then. Okay, number 5, what do you predict for the future of, again, you can use any industry, telecom industry, food industry, petroleum industry, or materials industry, or anything like that, right? So, again, if you have researched about that industry in which you will be employed, it will be easy for you to answer this question. How do you think you can contribute to this company, right? So to answer this question, you should be knowing the company's future goal and your strengths, and then you can link your strengths to the future goals of the company, right? The better you can link to your strengths to the future goal, and the more the more you will be appreciated by the interviewers. Number 7, what would you most like to accomplish if you get this position? Right? I mean, whatever the position or the job description you have been offered, they say, okay, if you get it, then what would you like the most to accomplish? Then, if you are familiar with the tasks that you will be performing on that particular position, you will be in a better position to answer this question, that okay, if I get this job, this is the first task that I shall be accomplishing, and this is going to be the second priority, and this is going to be the third priority. Well, number 8, how do you keep current with what is happening in your profession, right? Keep current means how do you remain updated what is happening in your profession. Again, your profession means engineering, while considering as broad, and your specific domain, automotive or materials or telecom or petroleum or food, to be very specific, right? So for that, you should be knowing that if you have already joined certain professional societies for your particular field of engineering, you can mention that. If you have subscribed that industry magazine or journal, you can refer to that. If you have been attending certain professional seminars, then you can mention that. But you should also be doing that when and if possible, whether they are online or physical. If we cannot manage these days because of COVID, the physical sessions, then you can attend them online. Now, next category is challenging questions. Number 1, what is your greatest weakness? Well, never say I do not have a weakness, right? Like, being human beings, all of us have some weakness, and if you do not if you say I do not have a weakness, they may say, well, gentleman or lady, we are not looking for an angel or a machine or something. Like, it means you have not thought about your weaknesses. So you should think about the weaknesses, and I'm not asking that you should share with everyone. Maybe you can think of few weaknesses, right? And preferably you should share the weaknesses that are weaknesses, but those weaknesses are not going to be harmful for the company or for that job description, right? If that is a key risk, for example, that job requires you to be analytical, right? And you mention that, I cannot analyze things well, then of course such a person with that weakness, which is uh, primary responsibility of the job, is less likely to be considered. So again, we have a number of weaknesses, then select a weakness that does not have a major negative impact on your field or on your position that you are likely to be interviewed for or that you are likely to be appointed for. Okay, what type of people do you have no patience for, right? And being flexible is good, but being laissez faire, that you have patience for everyone, may not be appreciated. So you should think of the situations, right? In advance, you should prepare that, okay, for example, those who are not performing their company task well, or those who are not punctual, right? So you have to come up with such points, and that's possible only if you have already made them. Okay, number three, if you could live your life over, what would you change and why? Well, actually, indirectly, they are asking about your weaknesses in a way, right? That if you say that if I could live over, then I would like to remove my this weakness, right? Or whatever the change you would like to have means you do not like that thing now in you, and if you are given a better next opportunity, of course, of rebirth, which is not possible for most of the beliefs, that you what changes would you make? So that is another way of knowing about your weakness, I believe. And well, you should be finding out one or two weak areas that you really think they are there. But once again, those weak areas should not have a major negative effect for the job that you are being considered for. Now, how would your former or current supervisor describe you as an employee, right? So, based on your communication with your employer or your supervisor, what relationship you had with him or her, then that's going to be a bit important. And you can answer this question again. Do not overpraise yourself, but do consider one or two positive points that you believe your supervisors or your uh, you know seniors would have for you. Okay, number five, what do you want the most from your job? Again, uh, uh, this is a challenging question, right? For example, uh, few possible answers can be satisfaction, future development, right? And but do not give answers like money and all that show that you are a greedy person, right? What is your grade point average, and does it accurately reflect your abilities? Of course, you cannot hide your GPA, right? And does it accurately reflect your abilities? This is where you can share your opinion. But please, if your GPA is too low, do not blame everything on the institutions, that they didn't do it and this was not there and that was not there, and right, that shows that will show that you are complaining, you have a complaining nature, and many people do not like that complaining nature. Number seven, have you ever used drugs though usually you won't come across such questions, at least in our local context, because you know we have very less ratio of using drugs, and at least our educated youth, they has less usage of using drugs, and because they are illegal in our country, and though they are being used, it doesn't mean they do not exist at all. But if they ask you, then obviously, uh, if you have not had, I'm sure in most of the cases you have not, then you should simply say no, right? And if you ever had it by mistake or by becoming part of some bad company, but it was for the very short time, and then you have left it and you do not require it any longer, then maybe instead of saying a straight yes, you should say, well, uh, I don't have any longer, or something that gives a sign that now you are not addicted. Who is your who in your life has influenced you the most, and why? The person, it can be an industry leader or somebody, right? But you should also think why you admire such a person, and to what extent do you find those characteristics in you. What are you reading right now, right? Obviously, we should be reading all the time, right? And whatever we are reading, then we can refer to that. If we Not necessarily you are reading now, maybe you finished reading some time ago, but you still remember many important points, so you can refer to that, that work that you were reading. Describe your ideal work environment. Again, please do not describe in such a way which is not attainable for the company you are going to apply for, right? So, considering the realities of, for example, an ideal work environment, in Pakistan can be different from an ideal work environment in the West, right? So do not be idealistic, so that they come to know that you will not be able to survive longer in the environment of that company. Next, is the customer always right? You know, they would like to know by asking such questions. Uh, you know, how would you take care of their clients or their customers, right? And once again, it's a bit difficult to give a straightforward answer for such a question, yes or no. But I think uh, an answer somewhat like, in most of the cases, yes. And then explaining in what cases yes, and uh, in what cases no, if the interviewers are willing, right? You should not unnecessarily give details and information. How do you define success? Well, of course, it shouldn't be uh, such that where you sound greedy. For example, to me, success is earning a lot of money, right? That can be one purpose, but that may not be considered success. That would sound that for, if you are being offered little higher salary, you will switch the job, and those people who have only who consider only money as success, they can also use unfair means to earn it, right? So success, can be, you know uh, being having been achieved some important targets in your field, or having maybe made some new addition to the field you belong to, right? And of course, getting a good living standard is also needed, but that should not be the only cause for which a person works. Well, questions about salary. what salary are you looking for, how much are you presently earning, how much do you think you are worth. Like, please do not initiate salary questions yourself. Let the interviewers initiate it, right? And these questions usually are asked at the end, right? So, and instead of giving, never give exact amount, though you should already have searched about the salary of a professional with your qualification and experience. At least a range should be in your mind, but do not go for a specific salary and do not demand it yourself. How much are you presently earning? Preferably you should tell the amount that you can prove, right? How much do you think you are worth? Again, they are asking you, how much do you expect? Do not give too high amount, neither give too low amount. So you need to work on that area also. And if you are a fresh graduate, you can say, well, according to company policy, right? If you are more interested in just entering into an organization to gain experience, and or you can say, well, many even medium and large companies, they have set their pay scales. So if you go according to their policy, uh, you know and even if you demand yourself, they won't exceed their policy. Are you willing to take a pay cut from your current or previous job? Salary reduced, actually, they are talking about. Well, again, you need to see the circumstances, you need to see different situations, you need to see your present and past salary that you were drawing. You also need to see the job scope. Sometimes professionals, they leave higher salaries and they go for a bit lower salaries because they see more future prospects in that company, and maybe there are other benefits, you know that they are even willing to work for less salary. Situational questions: how would you respond in your fellow team members strongly restricted a proposal you made in a meeting? Or what would you do if you knew that your boss gave your team data that was totally wrong? Even if you get this, maybe a reasonable answer would be that you would privately inform the boss that there has been some error and that could be because of this. Your supervisor has just told you that she is dissatisfied with your work, but you think it is acceptable. How would you resolve the conflict? So, these are some of the questions that you need to discuss. Maybe we can discuss them in our online session, because now we do not have enough time left for this recording. Uh, we are just approaching the maximum time for the recorded lecture, but we can discuss them in the next online session, and we can find out, and we can discuss, we can work on appropriate answers for these questions. Well, thank you very much. Take good care of you, and see you inshallah in the next live session.